We were down to nothing, stripped away, the heart was barely buzzing.
Essential thinking, less but better. Have you been feeling busy lately? Even though your salary hasn't increased, despite not acquiring any particular new skills, why are you so busy? I often ponder on such matters. Sometimes I've wondered if there's any meaning in this busyness. However, during these times, the pandemic occurred, providing a good opportunity to change perspectives. This is because the way we work has changed completely. Despite this change, salaries remain the same. Productivity doesn't seem to have changed significantly. In fact, it feels like it has improved. So, what was the point of the busyness we experienced before? We often hear the advice to question common sense, but common sense is, in a sense, a habit, making it difficult to change. However, the pandemic has once again taught us the importance of questioning common sense. Perhaps the busyness we experienced before didn't have any meaning. It was at such time that I became interested in the essential thinking, which has gained popularity lately. When I read it, it immediately changed the fundamental way of thinking for me. I can't even count how many times I've read it. If there's anyone who feels very busy but doesn't feel like they are moving forward, I highly recommend it. I am confident that this book will change your way of thinking. Firstly, it is said that 99% of our actions are wasteful. While we often hear about the Pareto principle, where 80% contributes to the entirety, in essential thinking, it's not 80%, but 99% that is considered wasteful. In other words, if we wanna incorporate essential thinking, it's about how effectively you can eliminate waste and get closer to the essence. However, cutting out waste can be challenging. There is a tendency for people to overvalue something once they have acquired it. Perhaps this stems from not wanting to admit that the choices we made were wrong. Many people can relate to this feeling. The difficulty in parting with positions is also attributed to this tendency. At such times, try asking yourself this question: if I didn't have this right now, would I actually buy it? Asking this question allows you to consistently question whether you are truly investing your effort in the right things. Why do we end up carrying waste in our lives in the first place? It's because within our hearts there exists a desire to have it all, to try everything, to incorporate every good thing into our lives. I believe everyone has experienced this at least once, digging into various things only to find that everything ends up halfway. This is where decisively discarding 99% and then narrowing down to the 1% essence make life richer. I can somehow understand, but I used to think that life is too complex and not so easily simplified. However, when I pondered, my life can't be made simple. I realized that I often take on tasks not for my own sake, but just to avoid upsetting others. I also noticed that I might be trapped by baseless norms, either self-created or imposed by others, and find myself executing tasks without questioning. When such patterns persist for years, it leads to sort of stagnation, and one becomes too accustomed to saying yes. I too had a moment of realization. There are many instances where I think because everyone else is doing it, or I'm so afraid of how others will perceive me if I don't do that, or it's probably better to do this. But is that truly the essence? Could it be a part of the mindset that says, I want to incorporate every good thing into my life, or perhaps a part of the mindset that doesn't want to be disliked by others? It is said to be important to overcome such beliefs, especially the three following. I must do it. Everything is important, and I can do everything. When encountering such beliefs, the counter mindset is as follows. Instead of I must do it, say I decided to do it. Instead of everything is important, say a few things are truly important. Instead of I can do everything, say I won't do everything. The essence of essential thinking lies in less but better. The majority of things in the world are noise, and there is hardly anything essential. Therefore, the most challenging aspect of practicing essential thinking are deciding what to discard and making choices. These 2 points will be the focus of our decision. First, let's talk about discarding. To discard, you must first evaluate: is the item truly necessary? Is the task genuinely important? However, evaluation can be challenging. In such times, establish your own criteria for judgment. Never rely on possibilities alone. A judgment based on possibilities is reliable. If you think this might be useful in the future, you might feel compelled to keep everything. Or if you consider selling it someday because it's valuable, that's not ideal either. If you think about selling it, it's probably better to sell it now. Similarly, accepting an offer from a completely unrelated field just because it might be useful for future career steps is also one of those possibilities. It could even be considered a form of exploitation. Once you've evaluated and determined something is unnecessary, take action to discard. However, as mentioned earlier, discarding is genuinely difficult. Attachment may form, especially if the item holds a sentimental value. There are also plenty of excuses not to discard, but discarding is crucial to acquiring essential thinking. When you find it challenging to discard, this mindset can be highly effective. If you didn't already own this, would you buy it now? People tend to overvalue what they already have. So, removing biases and imagining the scenario of encountering the item for the first time can help you make a more objective judgment. In fact, those who practice essential thinking consider more options than the average person. Despite this, confidently say yes to the essential thinking. Therefore, paradoxically, capable individuals can say many no's. Particularly, Japanese people tend to struggle with saying no due to valuing others' feelings. They find it difficult to say no, and in order to perceive harmony, they endure without disrupting the atmosphere. While this may be seen as embracing the concept of beauty, personally, I wonder if it's okay to indulge and be a bit more selfish. After all, it's your own life, not someone else's. I believe in making decisions that satisfy myself. Of course, caring for others is genuinely important, but I think many decisions are made arrogantly without consulting others, trying to avoid inconvenience. I hope when looking back on life, people won't find themselves burdened with trivial tasks and can live without regrets, staying true to themselves. Have you ever experienced the phenomenon where, aside from accommodating others, as your capabilities grow, the number of things you must do also increases? I believe many people have gone through this. When the list of must-dos expands, so does the routine. This routine, however, starts to weigh heavily on my time. Hence, it may be necessary to periodically reassess these routines. The first step in essential thinking is to choose. Choosing means deciding which tasks deserve a yes and which routines to retain. By doing so, essential thinking becomes achievable. However, if you give up on choosing, you end up merely following others' instructions, resulting in living someone else's life rather than your own. Everything exists in the world of trade-offs. Choosing one thing means giving up on something else. You can't have it all. Recognizing and admitting to giving up is difficult, not just for me, but for many. Therefore, instead of focusing on giving up on something, it might be constructive to think, what should I dedicate my full effort to? Now that we understand the importance of choosing, it's easy to imagine that taking time to think and pause is crucial for making choices. It's important not to fill our schedule to the brim. Always leaving room for flexibility allows for the creation of thinking time. Alternatively, incorporating this dedicated thinking time into the schedule is another approach. Occasionally, you may come across people who seem delighted with a tightly packed schedule, but it could be a sign of lacking flexibility. Those who decided to dedicate themselves fully to something are making choices by selecting from various options to give their full effort. Now that we understand the concept of what to choose, how can we, as Japanese individuals, effectively say the most challenging no without causing stress and focus on what we've decided to give our full effort to? Here are 4 methods. 1. Take a moment of silence. Start by staying silent. Count to 3 and let silence be your ally. Wait until the other person feels uncomfortable and says something. This allows you to observe how the situation unfolds. 2. Present an alternative. If directly saying no feels hesitant, suggesting a compromise might be a good idea. Not only the content but also reading the other person's expression can be intimidating. In such situations, leverage modern technology. Practice through emails. You can revise as many times as needed. You won't have to worry about reading facial expressions. 3. Check your schedule and respond. While personally not a preferred method as it delays the task, it can be effective when you tend to say okay in the heat of the moment. After checking your schedule, combine it with method 2 and respond through email. 4. Use positive language for negative responses. Mastering this method is incredibly useful in future communication. You can express negative sentiment constructively without using negative words. For instance, when a colleague asks you to create a document, consider saying, "Sure, I'd be happy to help. I have a handbook I used before. I'll lend it to you." It's well organized, implying that you won't be creating the document yourself but offering an alternative solution. This way, you can communicate a negative response without explicitly using negative words and still be constructive. To judge what should be done, discard unnecessary things and say no. They are valuable methods. Additionally, there are cases where the presence of the sunk cost bias leads to a refusal to admit failure, resulting continued commitment, since considerable costs and time have already been invested in something we have started. It's often challenging to admit failure and quit midway. Acknowledging failure is indeed a difficult thing. Everyone has experienced it at some point. Therefore, when you can acknowledge failure, it is evidence of becoming wiser than before, and then it's important to have confidence. However, it's a challenging judgment for the person involved. In such situation, consider seeking options from third parties, called impartial perspectives from others in a disinterested position, can be helpful in breaking attachment. Up until now, we have been introducing methods and perspectives on how to discard unnecessary things. While the book provides several concrete examples, one aspect that particularly resonated with me is how to deal with difficult people. Many of you may often be asked for help by others, and then, of course, helping others is not a bad thing. The person being helped is grateful, and it also brings a good feeling to oneself. There is also knowledge to be gained. This is something everyone knows. However, what I want you to consider here is when the person is taking over a problem that they should solve themselves. Of course, in emergencies or exceptional situations, help should be provided. But are there really that many emergency situations? Most situations don't involve someone taking over responsibility, do they? For example, I have an elementary school-aged child. During summer vacation, for elementary school students, there is usually a lot of homework. Helping with this homework on the last day of summer vacation has become somewhat of a cultural tradition in Japan. As a parent, there is a sense of obligation to finish the homework, but upon closer consideration, I believe that rather than completing the homework, the responsibility should be to provide the appropriate knowledge to the children through the homework. Clearly defining boundaries and then saying, I won't do any more beyond this point, may be beneficial for everyone. In this way, by making judgment and saying no, you can use this time and the flexibility gained to focus on what you want to do, what you should do. It is important to discard the concept of effort and then determination, such as forcibly allocating time, multitasking and working simultaneously, or staying up all night to accomplish tasks in essential thinking. Instead, systematize, even with the flexibility gained from being able to say no. It can be challenging to engage in what you want to do. When the time comes, give it your best shot. It's difficult to rely on the idea that you can do it when the situation becomes critical. In essential thinking, it's important to value habits and have a sense of realizing and achieving things as they come to your attention. So, how do you create habits? Let's understand the trigger. Habit consists of trigger, action, and reward. As you become accustomed to it, with the trigger, you reach the reward without consciously thinking about the action. Start by controlling the trigger. The trigger is an action that naturally leads to something. For example, brushing your teeth. It might vary from person to person, but in my case, after having breakfast at 8 a.m., I naturally brush my teeth. I'm not consciously thinking about this one anymore. When it's 8 a.m., I eat and then I brush my teeth. This trigger of it's 8 a.m. leads to the action eating, brushing teeth naturally. And the reward is maintaining clean teeth. Initially, you need to consciously create this trigger, but it said that if you can sustain it for 3 weeks, the trigger becomes automatic. As a habit, I consciously created for myself. I have the routine of taking online English lessons right after waking up until I have breakfast. After doing this for over 3 years, it has become completely natural, and I feel something is missing if I don't have an online English lesson. However, as mentioned earlier, it's crucial to constantly update without noticing. Routines can accumulate, and the purpose may shift to just going through the motions, or efforts that don't yield a result might go unnoticed. Having regular opportunities for reflection is very important. I introduced essential thinking this time, and then what's crucial in essential thinking is making decisions, determining what not to do, and turning what you decided to do into a habit. It's really about cutting out the unnecessary, focusing on what you want to do, and thinking it in the phrase less but better. That's the essence of it, as I perceive it. If this book has been helpful, I highly recommend actually reading it. Thank you very much for watching until the end. Bye.